Anyway, polyurethane. If it comes in your store and it has been worn and it's wet, this is an open cell structure. What's that mean? It absorbs water. Now, EVA won't absorb water, but polyurethane, PU, will absorb water. So if somebody's outside, they're running through the rain, and then they come in and they need something done to the shoe on the bottom, you're going to have to either let it dry overnight, and one thing to do is take some paper towels after you sand it down, some paper towels on it, press it, and try to squish that water out like a sponge. Try to get some. It doesn't happen often, but it can happen. So if you feel the shoe's damp, there's actually water that has absorbed way up into the sole. So you need to get that out or let it dry a long time before you start applying adhesive to it. It's not going to work too well. Okay.
You talked about heating up.
Yeah, when you're doing a build-up or putting on, or if you're putting on a piece of crepe, you can. A lot of seat heads in a lot of shoe repairs, we have what we call a convection oven, where the heat circulates through the oven really nice, and we put the material in there and we warm it up. I put mine on 350. Some might do a little less, some might do a little more. And when you put the material in the oven, don't do what I do. Don't go wait on customers. Because by the time you smell it, it's too late. Stay near the oven. And when you, it just gets the material nice and soft. So if the shoe has some curvatures to it, you can take that and just roll it right into the shoe and fit it in there really nice. To where when it's cold, you can't do that. If you plastic, it's a one-piece unit sole. If you cut the heel off, you've got holes in the heel, right? There's holes in there. All right, it's hollow. Okay. When you grind it, it doesn't melt. It kind of comes off in little pellets. It's very high abrasion. It's not easy to sand. Way to test this, though, is if you take a little bit of solvent, not a lot, just a little bit, and put it on a soft rag, and just rub a place, and the color comes off. It's thermoplastic. All right, if that's the way you want to test it, see if that's thermal. Because I tell you, I'll get shoes in that look like, I swear, that's thermoplastic, and I'll test it just to be sure, and the color don't come off. And then I realize it's some kind of high abrasion rubber. But it sure looked like thermoplastic. But just test it with a little bit of solvent, rub it on there, a little bit of thinner, some spot remover on a rag, and just do a little spot. And you'll see the thermoplastic will leave a shine. It'll leave a little shiny spot where you rub it. I use this one in my shop for all of my orthopedics build-ups, because and I don't want to get too far off track, but this is a great product to use when you're making orthotics, because it glues polypropylene, polyethylene, plastizote, all these materials in the orthopedic industry. And you can do external modifications with this, build-ups. You can do build-ups with this. And you can make all the orthotics with this. And it dries clear, so there's no glue lines. So when you're doing an orthotic, the last thing you want to have, or for instance, a build-up on a white SAS, the last thing you want is a big yellow glue line right there. And the last thing you want to do is try to cover up that glue line with some dye or acrylic or whatever you're going to use. So that's important. Another thing about these adhesives too, they're toluene free. No MEK. I think one has a little MEK in it, but the toluene is no MEK on any of them. And the Polyclone now has no MEK or toluene in it.
When did that start?
These have never had it. They took the toluene. This didn't have a lot in it, but they took the rest of it out a couple months ago.
February.
And it's less stringy than I noticed too. This one.
Yeah.
It's going to be a little stringy sometimes. It's not anything like it was anymore. So it's
Regular effect,
I like it better.
when you really have well it works, that stuff's been around a long time.
It works great. I've been using the ones without the toluene for a long time, and I use them more than I use the Cologne. Now the Cologne, it's fine. I've had the new stuff in my store for several months, and I can't tell a difference. No difference at all. The only difference I can tell is it's mild. It is a milder odor, and it's less stringy. I like it better.
It's important if you have girls, women in your shop. In Europe, it's completely forbidden to sell and to use toluene. MEK has a problem, it reduces your brain. Products I hear don't have any toluene because it's so dangerous for the unborn. You will get defects for the unborn. Therefore, we cancelled it many, many years ago. We started with the Orthotics and the Max Bond. It's a new formulation here, but it's an old formulation for Europe. And I always say what's good for women can't be bad for men, mostly. And therefore, if you don't, we don't need it. We changed it, we switched it, and even by the Calder cologne, you will not see the difference. Most of the people don't know it.
It'll be just as strong.
It's tested in many other countries, and they don't see a difference. They say same strength, same way to use it, same drying time. I think that's good for you.
What was the original purpose of putting it in?
Why did we use
It's cheap, and it's a good solvent. It's a strong solvent, and all the other solvents are more expensive, and that's one of the reasons because the Americans prefer for their cheap products the toluene and the MEK.
The toluene's cheaper. It's a
Yeah.
cheaper solvent. It has more harmful vapors. Okay. What's you're using now? How safe are they?
Okay, you can't eat, you can't drink it. So it's chemistry. It's not a joke. It's chemistry. Look
Yeah.
for a good fume extraction. That's always the best you can do.
Yeah.
The so-called
Would you
maximum
recommend?
concentrations that are allowed are between 10 and 20 times higher than before, but you need a ventilation in your room. You always need a ventilation to breathe.
For any adhesive, you should have
For anything, for your breathe, you need oxygen to live.
We
A
have-
window is enough. An open window is enough circulation.
Yeah. If we have a couple air booths in our store, it's just because we don't want to breathe anything, even if it's something else. I mean, these are the safest ones on the market. Period. Every other one has. I've got something. Every other one has toluene. It's been there forever since the beginning of the Shiba glues. So it's a safe product as far as your air environment. This is the safest one on the market as far as breathing goes. Let me get back to the thermoplastic real quick. Both of these will bond the thermoplastic without a primer. If you're going to use the Coldy cologne, you're going to need the yellow primer. Now, the yellow primer is a chemical roughening. Okay, you can't roughen thermoplastic. You have to do it chemically. Now, if you ever get soft rubber, really soft rubber, sometimes Vibram soles. I don't know if you've ever sanded a Vibram sole and it's got hot and started to peel off a little bit, and then you kind of have to repress it when the glue dries or cools off. Anybody ever noticed anything like that on some of the softer rubber? Because the heat just gets, like Vibram, the abrasion is so good that it gets hot when you sand it, and sometimes the glue will reactivate and kind of come apart a little bit. You can even prime that with the yellow primer, and it'll just make the strength even 100 times better. You won't even get that separation. So it's very good for soft rubber and then thermoplastic. But this has to dry about 10 to 15 minutes. I'd say no more than an hour. But as far as your window goes. But after maybe 10 minutes, you can feel it. It almost feels like a very fine piece of sandpaper after you put this on. But around 10 minutes, and then I'd give you an open window for about an hour. And the only reason why I say an hour is you got dust in the room and it settles on the material, and you got to clean it off or wipe it off, or depends on how much dust is flying around. So the yellow primer is only for the Coldy cologne or the Master multi-purpose adhesive.
That answered the one question I had, but the other question is, no offense to anyone, I had a pair of shoes from Walmart. It's a women's pair of shoes. It's that really hard plastic. I don't know how to identify other than the fact it's really hard. She doesn't want to skid, so I want to put on a pair of Vibram sole guards. What's the best way to apply the Vibram sole guard to that hard plastic after you sand it?
I'd have to see the material. Now, if Yes.
I think I know what he's talking about, and I've used Syntax. I've let it sit 24 hours, and then I
Okay.
put